Hello and welcome to another daily devotion as we come into Christmas week and the fourth week of Advent, where we've been doing these R's, renew, revive, rejoice, and this week is revive and renew. So I had this plant. It's a bush, really, a boxberry bush, which don't do too well in Illinois. And I had a couple of them in the front yard, and my daughter comes by and says, "Dad, this little tree here, this bush doesn't look so good. I think it's dead, Dad." And I look, and it's got some kind of blight. It's yellow. It's starting to wilt. The leaves are falling off of it. She said, "Dad, I think you just ought to dig this thing up and throw it out because it looks scraggly." Coming from my daughter, she tells me how it is. And it did look scraggly. It looked like that little Christmas tree that Linus brings and all the needles fall off. It's just like a little twig. Charlie Brown hangs an ornament on it, and it hangs down to the ground. But I thought, you know what? No. If we trim this thing down, just down to the ground, and we'll give it a little fertilizer, a little water, let the sun magnify it, let it fill with some of the sun's light. Little play on words there. Let's see what happens. So I chopped that bad boy down to the ground, to a nub. Sure enough, 3 or 4 weeks later, after a little fertilizer, a little watering, and the sun's light, little growth started coming back, and sure enough, that little plant started to come back. Revive. Today's text for me comes from the prophet Hosea. It doesn't say anything about the messianic birth or Jesus' coming. No, it says basically, God, you've allowed us to be torn to pieces. You've torn us to pieces. Or maybe more pointedly, you have allowed us to just have at our own sins, and you've allowed us free reign, and we have messed it up royal. That sound familiar? But the prophet says, God's not going to quit on us. God's not going to give up, no matter how scraggly we're looking. And he says God's going to revive God's people like a spring rain falling on a land that has been desert, arid, and dry, and it's got nothing going until this water and some sunlight changes what it is, transforms it into something else, transforms it into what God imagined it could be and always believed it could be, even when it wasn't able to do anything on its own without that divine help, divine push, divine love. So I ask, are there places where you need a little revival, a little, get out the paddles, clear, spiritually? Are you feeling a little scraggly? Like the cat just, coughed you up like a hairball of life? Sorry, maybe a little too graphic of an image for a daily devotion. But some of us may be feeling that way after 2020 or 2021. Could use a little revitalization. Well, then the prophet Hosea is for you at the beginning of this Christmas week. Hey, you may feel knocked down, dragged, and torn up. Some of it may be your own doing, but there's hope, because through this God comes a revival movement. Doesn't need a tent meeting, doesn't need a soapbox preacher, just a little openness to the movement of the spirits.